Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We express our praise and gratitude to Allah and we seek blessings on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so brief review. We're now essentially in Unit 2, so to speak, of Al-Baqarah. Technically it's the fourth ruku. Fifth ruku. But essentially the second unit or the second chapter for our purposes. The first is ayah 1 through 39, which is the introduction. And now we are in the address to and about the Ummah of Musa, peace be upon him, which will then be followed up with the address to the Ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, a big part of our discussion was first defining who is Israel. Israel, we said, is a name given to Yaqub alayhi salam, Jacob. So you have Ibrahim alayhi salam, sons Ismail, Ishaq son Jacob, Jacob's son Joseph, and then it goes on from there eventually to Moses and eventually to Jesus. Peace be upon him.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
With respect to Ibrahim alayhi salam, what the area that he was in, because he obviously built the Kaaba, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there's actually 4 Arab prophets, and Ibrahim is not one of them, but he's kind of in that area. You know, in terms of genealogy and stuff, I mean, he's the grandfather of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he's not really considered an Arab prophet.
Ismail is at most considered to be the first Arab.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is that because he migrated there?
Essentially, so Arab means speaking Arabic. That's essentially what that means.
Oh, I see.
Right, so it's not so much ethnic. And so Arabic language is traced to Ismail alayhi salam when he settles there. The tribe Jurhum, when they come looking for a place to settle, they arrive and they see Ismail and his mother, peace be upon her, Hajar. And then, do you guys know that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they settle there. They're considered to be the descendant or the ancestors of the Arabs. They're like Arabic is said, one system of belief is that it's said to come from them.
But the Saleh, Shuaib, and Hud were also Arab prophets.
So, I mean, essentially, so Hud is like Yemen, and Saleh and Shuaib are somewhere up north somewhere.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Is that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that hadith said that these are the 4 Arab prophets.
Yeah.
But Arab, I mean, if they're Arab and Ibrahim alayhi salam is not Arab, it's just kind of strange, you know.
Yeah, I'm not familiar
Is it from hadith? Because that's what Fezan Mumtaz.
Yeah, I mean that's where I learned it in Fezan's class.
Our teacher said those are the only 4 Arab prophets that are mentioned in the Quran. So as to say that maybe they're talking about the etymology of the name.
that could be, as in Arabic names.
Oh, I see.
Probably
That
it's
could be,
the
yeah.
etymology of the name, not
That's
whether or not they are.
I mean, I can ask them what he means. But
Yeah.
Because the issue there is that Shuaib is from Madian and Musa alayhi salam goes to Madian,
Yeah.
so that doesn't
Right.
necessarily
That doesn't fit either. Yeah, yeah.
And it's a hadith because actually I've heard that in Oman Ali Khan's lecture on
Yes.
Arabic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask him what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not familiar with that. Because, I mean, there's other theories that the Arabic language might be as much as 10,000 years old. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's one big belief that Arabic is the oldest of the Semitic languages. There's another belief that Arabic itself is one of the oldest of all languages. I mean, part of that is that you'd have to do archaeology in Saudi Arabia, which is not going to happen anytime soon. Full situations. Yeah.
Or if they need to build a new tower.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll be like, whoa, who is this 80-foot man that we just found? He looks just like Adam.
I was going to say, what was the language that Adam and Eve spoke?
Dun, 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 dun. There is a belief that the language of paradise is Arabic, which is interesting because I had Catholic students for whom the language of paradise was Latin. Huh? Okay.
That's interesting.
So, who knows?
That's kind of cool.
Okay. So Israel is a title, is an honor given to Yaqub alayhi salam. Israel, if you look in our books, and I mentioned this last time, our books say Israel means Abdullah, so servant of Allah. But I suspect that that's probably not correct. And I suspect it relates something to like elevating to Allah, just because the Semitic roots, the Hebrew roots are often very, very close to the Arabic roots and such. And il at the end of a word in Arabic is essentially meaning Allah. That part's correct. Then who is the Bani Israel? At one level, who is Bani Israel? The descendants through those 12 sons of Yaqub. So they become what we call the 12 tribes of Israel. And then who else is Israel? If we speak in Judaism, Israel refers not so much to that state, it refers to the Jewish people. In the way we use the word ummah, in Judaism, at least in Reform Judaism, I'm assuming it's true also in Orthodox Judaism, when they're saying Israel, they're referring to the Jewish people. Right? And then what's the equivalent in Christianity for the term Ummah? Well, be surprised. Sorry? It's the church. The church actually refers to either the Pope and in his guise, or refers to the entire Christian community. So ultimately, who is Bani Israel? You are part of Bani Israel if you believe you are part of Bani Israel. That's the only easy answer. At the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when the Quran was being revealed, and it said, "O children of Israel," who believed that they were being spoken to? The Jews of Medina. Right? Those were the children of Israel then. But when I've asked students these days, Jewish students, who are the children of Israel to you? Some have said that they're essentially the ancestors of the Jews. Some say no, they're essentially like the first Jews and such. So I haven't gotten consistent answers on that. Who are the children of Israel today? And then from there we got into the conversation that when you see a command in the Quran, is it addressing you? And the point that it led us to was that anytime you see a command, even if it sounds like something Allah Ta'ala would tell us to do, first you got to see who He's addressing, right? And so in the last discussion, we saw literally 11 commands in a row. Remember the favor I favored you with. Fear me alone. Or fulfill your pact with me. Fear me alone. Do not mix truth with falsehood, so forth and so on. Those all sound like things Allah Ta'ala would tell us to do. But in this context, He's telling you that, the children of Israel. In many cases, in almost every case, what He tells them to do, He will tell us to do later. So the second point is that when you are looking at who or at a command, be clear on who the command is for. This is interesting because I had this class last Monday at IIIE making exactly the same point. And there was a student in the class who was saying, yeah, I get it, but I can fulfill whatever commands I want. Okay, as long as you understand when it says, "Oh, you who believe," those you have to fulfill. And I don't even know if she really understood it, but she said, yeah, I get that, but I can do all these things too if I want for the children of Israel. I'm like, fine if you want, but I'm making your life easier. I'm reducing your commands. And I don't think that person really got it.
But I think...
Yeah, go over first, thanks.
I was just going to say that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that these are the commands, then who are you to say, no, I'm going to do all of them? That's kind of...
Well, I think her message to me was...
Isn't Islam complete the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
So you're saying that if a command's for them, I shouldn't be trying to fulfill it. That's what you're saying?
I think that to say that is a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah,
I find it a little odd.
I think her message to me was more along the lines of you can't tell me what to do. I think it was more along the
A little more personal.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, because I think the last time you spoke on this topic, you were saying that, when we in this day and age think of Israel,
Yeah.
we think about the state which is more of a politically driven
Yeah.
sort of situation. But the things that they were charged with, so to speak,
The charge
the
sheet.
charge sheet, is not necessarily something that was completely egregious. There's part of it was human behavior, right? From if I understood what you were saying, is that what they did is all part of the human hardwiring behavior that can go in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a lesson for all of us. It's not just something that is specific to that group. That it's being brought up for us to understand how human nature can go, the wrong direction, and to kind of prevent us from doing that same thing.
Yeah, this would be essentially the next big point, that when we are reading the story of the children of Israel, the mistake we often make is to say that, okay, these are people who are innately wicked people, right? And no, it's wrong. That these are people that behave just like humans behave, like any other population of humans behave. When their central flaw from start to finish is lack of gratitude, right? That's the central problem of the whole story, and that leads to the problems. Yes?
It's like a fundamental question that I've been thinking about like all week.
Who is God? No.
Related to what
Free
you're
will, predestined. Anyway, keep going.
Because I feel like in the Quran, like a lot of the way that I see it is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is how you are, but I want you to resist this and be this way, and don't be led astray based on the way I created you. You know,
Okay, keep going.
because it's like there was some ayah. Where it was, but it was like if you follow the majority and think that you are Surah Tawbah, exactly. So if you follow the majority, the people around you, and you think that you're right and you
Yeah,
justify
astray.
it that way,
Yeah.
then you're absolutely astray, because who is your God? Is it your society of the time, or is it all God, you know? So that's human nature. That's what society is
Okay.
to be in one with society. And,
Okay.
you know, there's like social norms, blah, blah, blah. So what my question is, it seems like, it frustrates me that I feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in a
To
certain
lose?
tendency and then asks us to act against it.
Okay.
Why is that?
Isn't that like the test of life?
Yeah, but that seems like almost like harsh, because I feel like, okay, if you're a deviant, so if the nature of a person is, yes, I can say the nature of a person is good, but there's a lot of other categories that go into that. So why are we created this way and then asked to go against it? I don't think it's human nature is bad, but there are certainly things that are not good or bad. It's
Sure.
just a human tendency.
Yeah.
I think
You know?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be gravitating towards worship and gravitating towards what will bring us closer to Him. That is the true happiness, true salvation, that sort of thing. And then by continuing on doing behaviors that pull us away from that, we follow that pathway of getting further and further away. And then this book tells us how to bring us back and what we should focus on to try to reestablish that connection. So I don't think He created us to be deviant. He actually created us with Jannah for those that's waiting for all of us. But then we choose the path that we choose.
No, but I'm saying the behavior is not deviant. It's actually
Okay.
normal human behavior,
Okay.
but then we're asked to act against it.
Okay.
Like, you know,
Any thoughts?
I do.
Far away.
So, you remember how we were talking in the beginning about how Iblis said, "I'm made of fire, and you're made of the earth, and His energy, and that's like friction, and rough, right?" So, what is generated from friction is energy, right? Humans are wired for action and for work. I showed somebody recently in Surah Yasin, it talks about the people of Jannah on that day will be happily engaged in work, right? On the last day, they'll be engaged happily in work. This is part of our wiring, right? So, part of the package is that friction, I think, between, what our nature is as far as being drawn to Allah, and then our human self, which is that, pull back. And I think there's a friction, there's an energy there, but that can propel us.
I agree with you completely. It's kind of like that whole idea of like when you work towards something, Well, here's the thing. That's not what I'm talking about, though. So I'm not talking about our nature of being lazy or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's my core nature.
But I'm saying, like,
My
I don't
nature's
know,
to be
other
asleep.
things. Like, there's just so many examples of this where it's like, that's human nature, but we're like, yeah, that's not what we should be doing.
I would say that is a part of human nature, right? That is not the whole.
It seems
human
unfair
nature.
to me. I know that's wrong to say that,
But that's your consistent point pretty much since the first ayah. Right? But I would suggest that, for example, impatience is one of the points that those ayahs say over and over again, that, but man is impatient, right, over and over again. And that A doesn't necessarily mean that that's your default nature, and it also doesn't mean that that's your whole nature, right? That your default nature is to serve Allah, right? But you also have physiology that basically makes it, sleep really, really, enticing and such. And so some take essentially Aristotle's model. You'd be surprised that this is actually coming from Aristotle. This idea that you are soul and body, and the point being that your soul inclines to Allah, your body inclines to basically, resisting all that, and then that becomes the battle inside, right? And so the point being that those passages, I don't think any of them say that this is who you are completely, right? As opposed to this is part of you. And this can become dominant in you, but it's a part of you at the most. Your default inclination, your default desire, your default happiness comes in getting closer to Allah.
Well, so a theme implies both, right?
Yeah, that the highest of high,
You're
lowest of low.
created from the highest of the high, you're based to the lowest of the low, and then your actions bring you back to your true nature,
Which is the highest of high.
which is the highest of the high. Your righteous actions bring you back to your true nature. That's sort of in other words, both are part of you, but it just seems like that's, as she said, it's part of the package, but in a way, that's what made us worth being prostrated, prostrated to, is because of that, our ability to to accomplish that.
What do you think?
I get it, but I struggle with that.
Yeah, sure.
I do, because I feel like some of it is kind of unreasonable to ask of us.
And so, yeah, I'm suggesting that, that it's actually harder to go to hell than we think, and yet the vast majority of people are going to go to hell.
Wait, did you say it's harder to go to hell than you think?
Yeah. Sunday school Islam says you're pretty much guaranteed to go to
No,
hell.
no, no, but but you said that hadith and it like scares
Unless
me
you're in
so
his
much.
class.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a good teacher. No,
Hey, you're a teacher too, so hopefully you don't teach this.
I teach Arabic. But
It's like, A'udhu billah, right?
no,
Wait,
like
is this pillow here supposed to be for me? It's like, why does this chair feel
Like,
so...
You can use it, yeah.
It's a frog.
It's a hard chair.
actually, it wasn't a cushion.
Now it is.
oh, there he is. But like that hadith, it like scares me so much. You said that like, I don't know if it was like 100. Okay, sorry. No, it was. You said it was like 100. Like one person out of 100 is gonna go to Jannah. 1,000. Okay, so it is 1,000.
One out of 1,000?
Is going to Jannah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
And the rest are going to
Oh,
hell.
they're going to Jannah.
1 out of 1,000 is going to Jannah.
I mean, it's 1,000, it's not like a trillion.
Yeah, that's true. See, that's optimistic.
I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Very optimistic.
That's like really scary.
And may we all be one of those ones. But think back to the previous discussions.
That's the hadith, right? 1 in 1,000
Yeah.
is going to.
Or
Paradise.
999 out of
Is that like
1,000 are going to hell.
straight to paradise, or is that just like...
That's a good question.
We don't know.
It could mean straight to paradise. That's one of those hadith where I don't want more details. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh my god!
Mom, you're looking unusually attractive. What is it about you?
Is this
that-
class time still?
Something was really
You really put some thought into
familiar about this. I don't know what this is. Oh yeah.
So you need to sit over there.
I think your underwear's sticking
Sit
out.
down.
Oh, I forgot.
Are you cold?
I was just bringing this for you. Whose sweater is this? What is this?
He doesn't look as familiar as he did before.
It was a small. I think it's a large now.
Sorry, not even.
Wow.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you should keep it on.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to do that anymore anyway. Yeah.
I just went to get tea and I was cold, so I put it, you know. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, the basic point being that I'm suggesting that it's actually the other way around. It sounds like a losing venture, but you actually have to try hard to go to hell.
I mean, is it like, okay, you hit this threshold, you're going to hell, or is it based on actions? Because that's kind of a...
Yes and yes, and no and no.
I don't know.
That's not ambiguous at all.
Yeah, sorry?
That's not ambiguous at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's not your deeds that's going to enter you into Jannah, right? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy.
Meaning, but it's yes to both of those, right?
You know,
Yeah.
so it's like you're doing these deeds to earn the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through that mercy, you'll go to Jannah.
Yeah, mercy isn't earned.
Which is given.
Mercy is what?
Mercy is not earned.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's really true.
The hadith of 1 out of 1,000 people are going to Jannah. If you think about it, Islam is quite a new religion so
Yeah, sure.
far. And so, if you want to say everything before that, that's a lot of people. I mean, yeah, sure, there's Christians and Jews before that, but they weren't. There were still a lot of them, but not a lot. But then before that, there's
You understand
still
what all the people in human history?
yeah, because there's still a lot of people before Judaism that believed in many gods.
You don't even forget all these Vikings.
Leakies.
You think they're going to heaven? Yes, sir.
Talking about today, there's like an estimated 9 billion people in the world today or something.
9,
So-
7,
Most of them, you think.
all of them.
No, but in all seriousness,
So,
sorry?
I don't know.
Yeah, these videos look like big trouble. So, but ultimately, the key point I'm suggesting is that, yeah, I get how you're saying that it seems like a losing battle, but I think it's
if that's
It's
the case,
not as hard as it.
why is it that people are so bent out of shape when they're trying to, like, when you look at somebody who's struggling towards Islam,
Yeah.
we're really hard on ourselves. And I don't think it has anything to do
Yeah, I
with
think that's
NCC or our
wrong.
parents. I think it's
I
just,
think a lot of it has to do
that's
with
from the
Sunday
desire
school.
of being, but I think it's from the desire of, like, achieving. But I just feel like, why can't we be more forgiving to say, you know what,
Yeah.
I missed namaz, you know? Do you know what I'm saying?
Hey, kids, close your ears. But,
No, I'm
no,
just
no.
saying, because you know what it is, like, I feel like most people are trying to, oh my God, you know what I mean? There's like such a process of negativity, because if Allah is that merciful, then why can't, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Well, let's revisit this because we're going to get into this in more detail, especially when we get to I-75, when we get into the causes and manifestations of kufr. We'll see a lot of that there. But a point to think about at the end of the day is that for the first decade, almost first decade and a half, almost all of Makkah rejected the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? And they are getting it from the best possible caller in their language right in front of them, and still they're saying no.
And knew that they didn't have Fox News trashing him.
Yeah, they didn't even have that.
They
right?
thought he was the best.
It was all
he was
clear.
the best of people.
Yeah, and still they're saying no, and I think there's some big insights into human nature just by looking at them. Most of those people eventually became Muslim, right, 10 years after he leaves. But throughout his call right in front of them, almost everyone's saying no. And I think there's a lot to learn just about human nature, that sometimes we know that something is just absolutely great for us, and we still say, nah, I'd rather.
Can you be like hard on yourself though, like when you like you miss a prayer or like whatever sin, because if you want to repent for it, don't you have to feel remorse?
I'd say remorse is one thing, but looking at yourself as the worst person in the history of mankind might be potentially unhealthy. Right? But yes, you should not look at your sins as small, and you should not look at your good deeds as mountainous. Okay. Another mistake that is commonly made regarding the children of Israel. So one is that we automatically look at them as wicked people when they're just completely normal people. The other is that we make them synonymous with the Jews, and we're going to see we're not going to get to it today, but there's a different term in the Quran for Jews anyway. But then on top of that, a lot of the way we look at the children of Israel in the Quran gets informed by our political situation in terms of the state of Israel, and that is again another mistake. That we look at the state of Israel, okay, as this evil, horrendous force, and therefore we look at the story of the children of Israel as these evil, horrendous people, and that is incorrect. Okay, so having said that, ayah 40 through 46 is what we covered last time, and essentially we had a series of instructions, and the gist of the series of instructions to the children of Israel, the Ummah of Moses, peace be upon him, at the time of the Jews in Medina, was fulfill your religion, which also means embrace the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Which ayah is that? Did you say?
So 40 through 46. So today we're going to start from 47. So 40 through 46, the essential message is fulfill your religion, fulfill your covenant, which also means embrace the Prophet, peace be upon him, which also means embrace the Ummah. And here we're talking about the Muslim Ummah. And on the flip side, don't do the opposite, which is to reject the Prophet, peace be upon him, for some small gain, or reject Islam for some small gain. You should be the first to believe. You should not be the last.
Fulfill your covenant, you said?
Yeah.
Fulfill your covenant, and what was the other one?
And essentially, part of fulfilling your covenant is to embrace the Prophet.
Embrace the Prophet.
When they're using the term "don't sell the truth,"
Yeah.
what are they exactly? What transaction?
In simple language, it means that I'm not going to give you the whole truth because it's going to affect my position or status, like my salary, right?
Oh, I see.
And so at the time of the Prophet, peace be on him, think of it, aside from the Jews of Medina, that there was a person who was supposed to be the leader of Yathrib, Abdullah ibn Ubay, right? That the two idol-worshipping tribes that were fighting, said he's the only guy who wants peace among us. And on top of that, there was Abu Amir, who claimed to be a prophet of the religion of Abraham, peace be upon him. Along comes the Prophet, peace be upon him, who gets essentially made into the leader, taking away Abdullah ibn Ubay's status. But then Abu Amir, who's claimed to be the powerful prophet of the religion of Abraham, and the Prophet goes and visits him, and Abu Amir says, okay, one of us is lying. And may the liar leave Yathrib. And the Prophet says, Amin. right? How about that?
Subhanallah.
And the point is that
Bring it.
that these are two people who immediately lost, their high status. I mean, even think of Abdullah ibn Ubay. He's on the verge of being literally the king of Yathrib, and it gets wiped away just like that. Right? And so it kind of follows in the wrong way that when the Prophet, when he's having these conflicts with Quraysh, Abdullah ibn Ubay is secretly telling them what's going on. He's secretly causing dissensions because he thought that was his seat that this guy took, right? And so in the same way, there's a hadith, this is in Bukhari, and I think it's attributed to Abu Hurairah, where the Prophet, peace and honor, is reported to have said that if 10 Jews became Muslim, if 10 Jews embraced me, they all would have. And then he was referring to the chiefs among them. So if they embrace him, that means they lose all their status unless he gives them status, right?
That's when they don't sell.
Don't sell it off for the small gain. Small gain being dunya. Yeah. Okay. So they receive a series of commands, but also they receive a mercy, and that is ayah 45 and 46, which is basically seek strength in sabr and salah. Seek strength in perseverance in salah, the prayer, but it's hard to do unless you have khushu', this humble-minded devotion. You know that you're going to return to Allah, and you know that you're going to meet Him. And khushu', we said a key to develop khushu' based on a different ayah. One key is to just keep doing sajda, 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 sajda.
I'm sorry, seek, you said seek, sabr, and salah, and...
Seek help from sabr and salah.
Oh, seek help.
Yeah. I mean, I'm basically just speaking of ayah 45. And then it says it's hard for those who do not have khushu'. So khushu' would translate something like humble-minded devotion, meaning you're super devoted but in a humble way. And for those who know that they're going to return to Allah and that they will meet Him, or the other way around, those who will meet their Lord. And what does that mean? You know that you're going to be held to account for your actions. And they're going to return to Him, meaning anything that you're doing here is just basically temporary. That we're here travelers, like Hussein gives the example, that you're basically, like your life in dunya is like you're checking into a motel for a little while, and eventually you're going to leave. Okay, having said all that, ayah 47 through 59. Now the favors are going to get itemized. When it says, remember the favors I favored you with. Now, a thing to think about, which we touched on last time, is this idea of narrative. Every community has a narrative. Okay, so if I asked you to give me the narrative of Islam in Chicago, someone try to give me the narrative of Islam in Chicago. Anything. Or what would be big events that would be part of the narrative of Islam in Chicago?
Founding of MCC.
Yeah, I think that would be a big event in the narrative.
Maulana Abdullah Salim.
Yeah, Maulana Abdullah Salim arriving, landing here. Do you know who brought him?
Actually, I don't.
Dr. Ghazi.
Really? So he recruited him from Deoband?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fun.
He basically told me you should come here and do work here. Which is interesting.
Sabri Nahari.
Italian
But I
Express.
would say Devon Avenue definitely is.
The Huda
right?
Suites.
Yeah. I mean, I remember those days when Devon was like two stores. It was like India Sari Palace and Patel Brothers.
Patel
Yeah,
Brothers,
yeah.
yeah.
That was like the whole thing. Sorry.
Patel Brothers also.
Yeah.
I read something that you wrote about
I'm sorry.
one of the films. Sorry. No, it was good. And you said that because I've been trying to put together understand what the narrative is.
Yeah.
And you said that there are these milestones, right? And the narrative is what happens in between them.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that sounds pretty deep. I'm not
Well,
sure.
yeah, I
who knows
think
me.
you kind
I was
of
probably quoting somebody else. Yeah.
maybe, but I don't understand, the idea of the
Okay.
narrative.
So you understand the general point, though, right? Every community has its story,
Yes, I guess.
right? So when does the story of America begin? When would you say?
Native
Mayflower.
Americans.
Mayflower. James.
Mayflower?
In popular.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
No.
you're talking about what it should be. I'm talking about the actual national
It should be
mythology.
Native Americans, right?
National mythology, I'd say it's probably Plymouth Rock. Right.
Spanish exploration at least.
Maybe, but in terms of the national mythology, I think it's probably
It's the Puritans. It's what it is.
Mayflower.
Pilgrims, Puritans, that era. That's what I would think, right? You're like, no, that is wrong, right?
That's for the north, and then John Smith in the south, kind
So,
of.
so you got the Christians up there, the capitalists down there.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry?
what I was gonna say.
Yeah, or Columbus. Yeah, well, I forgot about Columbus. Yeah, I blocked that so much out of my
I said
mind.
Spanish exploration.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. See, I was thinking Columbus is Italian, but you're right, Spanish. Yeah. Okay, so He was Italian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
But it was
Isabella.
Queen.
Yeah. So 1492 then. That would be when the story of America begins. And then big events in the story of America would be the Pilgrims, July 4th, 1776. How about after July 4th, 1776? What would be the next big event in the story of America?
Civil.
War of 1812, I think.
Yeah.
Constitution Convention.
Constitution, right? And then probably the War of 1812, then probably Civil War.
Or the Constitution, I think.
Articles, etc. I would just put all that as one big lump, right? How about the big events in the story of America in the 20th century?
20th century, World War I, of course.
World War I, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
The
And then
Depression.
Depression would be a huge.
booming 20s, Great Depression, and then like World War II.
Uh-huh.
Civil rights.
So part of World War II would be Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
right? But the point is that these are the big milestones that are part of like the mythology of American history. Civil rights movement, 9/11 will be there, and even the election of Obama would be there at some point, right? And so when we speak of our narrative, the narrative of Islam, most often what would we say? Essentially when the Prophet receives his first revelation, peace be upon him. Well, what about after him? And what I'm talking about is not what happened, but what is part of our story that everybody just knows.
The four Khalifas, of course.
Yeah, I would say at least to be able to name the four
Yes.
Khalifas.
Yeah, at a minimum. Yeah.
But I think beyond that, the narrative ends.
Collection of hadith and stuff. Collection of
I'm saying in terms of just the lay Muslim.
big milestones.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, there are a number of heroes, right? There's Salahuddin, there's Omar ibn Abdulaziz, but
Tipu Sultan.
people Sultan, especially from subcontinent, yeah.
I think there's a deliverance, almost an obfuscation of the history because the history is so troubling after the Troubles. There's almost like a sense of people, hey, I don't want to, honestly, when I get past
You know what?
the first half of Uthman's Khilafat, I kind of want to stop. I kind of don't want to read. I
Sure.
kind of don't want to read anymore after
Uh-huh.
that point. It's unimaginable to me, and I think that's probably why a lot to the layperson.
Yeah, it's probably a big part of it, yeah.
You don't want to talk about it. Therefore, you don't convey that part of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so you're saying it's like a willful amnesia almost?
It's just bizarre how evil people got. I mean, it's just the way that these people were.
I think
Evil's a strong word. I think misguided
it
is
just,
I mean, like
I
the way
think it's just,
Usman was
it's an
killed.
inevitability of the things that played out.
right.
I think part of the greatness is that still return to stability, right? That should have destroyed the Ummah. Okay, if you really think about like all the stuff that happened, but yet it resulted in complete stability and expansion after that. Right? But the point being that our narrative often is essentially the story of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Usually not much more than that, and it's usually about 10 events from the story of the Prophet, peace be upon him anyway, right?
You have to
First
put
revelation.
Hijra in there too, from
Hijra
like,
will be there,
during the life
right.
of the Prophet.
The Surah Lahab will be there,
Right,
a few other
I mean-
things. Sorry?
Basically, everything that you hear in Sunday school. Badr,
Yeah.
That's-
Badr,
Yeah.
Uhud, wait, Hijra, Badr, Uhud, death of the Prophet, and then Khalifas, and that's usually it.
Yeah.
Three texts, that's it.
So when Allah Ta'ala is speaking to the children of Israel, He's speaking to them according to their narrative.
And that is the stories that they tell each other about their own history.
Yeah. And so what we're going to see here is that when you and I look at these passages from a Quranic perspective, we're going to see one story. When we look at these passages from a biblical perspective, it's going to be a different story. But He's speaking to them in their narrative. And one fundamental difference between the Muslims and even the Jews of today is that when we speak about problems in history, we might say that's our history, but we don't say that's us, right? Like when the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Sahaba is getting tortured. Okay, we say the Sahaba are getting tortured, right? Bilal is getting tortured. We don't say that happened to us. In the way we might say that, all right, if some Muslim in our society in here in Chicago got attacked, we have more of the sense that we're getting attacked. Yet in Jewish narrative, this is us. We were the victims of the Holocaust. We were the victims of the Pharaoh. We were the victims of Nebuchadnezzar and such, right? Even though that might have happened thousands of years before I was alive, that's part of the Jewish narrative, even today, right? And Allah Ta'ala, when speaking here, is speaking to them according to their narrative, the children of Israel narrative. Right. See the point? You're going to see it in here in action in just about 2 ayahs. Okay. So first, ayah 47. Ya bani Israel, udhkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. So, O children of Israel, again, remember the favor I favored you with. وَأَنِّي فَضَّلْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. And I preferred you, I favored you, I graced you above all the worlds. Now think about this language, عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, over all the worlds. So in terms of dunya luxuries, they were given luxuries above anybody in the whole universe, above everyone in all of creation. Some of them are going to be listed here, some of them we also have in other teachings, not listed here, that for example, that what we're not going to see here, but other sources say that, for example, they were given some special type of clothes that never wore out. And that itself would be goes. But as you're
They knew
growing,
this, right?
sorry?
The Jews of that time knew that their ancestors were given these favors?
The Jews of Medina?
Yeah.
Yeah, meaning this is part of the narrative. Yeah. I mean, to really make this point, you see 2 schools talking about the state of Israel today, right? So the dominant school is, okay, this is the Jewish safe haven, this is the Jewish homeland, don't say anything wrong about it because that's anti-Semitic, right? The actual Orthodox, textbook Orthodox opinion, by Orthodox I mean Orthodox American, not Orthodox Israeli. The Orthodox Israeli, those guys are strange people. Orthodox American view is actually that we were separated from our sacred land because of our sins. And once we stop our sins, then God will give us back our land. Meaning, this land is not our authentic homeland. The land itself is, but this constructed state is not really our authentic homeland. Right? But those people who say that usually get vilified by the greater community. Okay, so favored above of all the worlds, they were given clothes that would even grow with them. That as you're growing up from childhood, the clothes would grow with them. Other things that you might be familiar with, which is in the Quran, they were given a cloud above them that always kept them in shade, even when they're in the desert. Right.
What ayah is this?
Meaning, we're just speaking in ayah 47, that they're favored above all the worlds. So essentially, they were given everything of the dunya.
Well, where are these examples that you bring?
I'm sorry?
The cloud.
The clouds in the Quran, right? As far as the clothes,
The clouds with what?
the cloud, that they had a cloud above them. We're actually going to see it.
Okay.
It's like ayah 58, you're going to see it around there. Yeah. But the key point being that they're given favors above everyone, above all the worlds. Why? Why were they given so much?
It's part of the covenant.
Even simpler.
If you wanted to.
Allah Ta'ala chose to do so, right? You know, why is it that one person is born in a wealthy family, another person is born in a poor family? Right? It's not like they earned it, right? So this was Allah's will, in a dunya perspective. But then ayah 48, wattaqu, have taqwa, about a day, yawman la tajzi nafsun an nafsin shay, a day in which no one can essentially help anyone else, or no one can stand for or stand in any other person's place. Shay'un. وَلَا يُقْبَلُ مِنْهَا شَفَاءَةٌ, and there will be no shifa, don, 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 which we'll talk about in just a moment, no intercession. وَلَا يُؤْخَذُ مِنْهَا عَدْلٌ, meaning, so the translation, no one can give compensation, meaning no one can buy their way out, no one can ransom their way out. وَلَا هُمْ يُنْصَرُونَ, and they will not be given any help. So they are told, remember the favor that I favored you with, I favored you above all the worlds, but guard yourself against the day of judgment when 4 things are not going to be there for you. No one's going to be able to stand in your place, no one can stand in intercession, no one you can't buy your way out, and no one can help you. Let's look at that intercession point. Does this mean on the day of judgment, all those hadith narrations we have about shifa are not true? Here it says, there will be no intercession.
Or for a nation specific, since you're talking about how,
Sure.
since this is directed to a specific
Okay.
entity, what the path you're going down was a path of not leading to intercession.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to make that the counter.
Okay. Your thoughts? Would you extend it then to all the intercession of the prophet, peace be upon the intercession of the Quran, all those things.
They were
It doesn't say
given.
that there.
Sorry?
It doesn't say that there. In fact, the Ayat al-Kursi says, يَمَيْنْ مَنْ الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. So you might, by extension, say, shafa, where what they're banking on right now, because it's saying, don't bank on what you've been banking on because that cannot intercede.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yours again?
Does the intercession refer to the fact that the prophet was a mercy on us, and his example is the intercession of what our nature would otherwise have us do?
So there is a textbook belief that on the day of judgment, it's more than that. That he will potentially have the authority to stand for us on the day of judgment.
So is that contradictory to what we just read?
This is what I'm asking. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I think these people, the point, if I recall correctly, is that they were given all these favors, and they didn't earn these, and the akhirah and all the benefits that we have is something that they have to earn those things, and that's why they're not going to get the intercession, because it's not going to be the afterlife is not going to be handed to them like their dunya was.
This is the core, right? That everything you've been given in dunya, this complete free pass, don't expect any of that for akhirah. You have to earn akhirah. You didn't have to earn anything in dunya. I don't hear you saying something.
Isn't this I don't know if you were getting at this, but isn't this specifically for the children of Israel?
Okay.
Oh.
So to answer this a couple of ways, that if we take all the mentions of intercession in the Quran, there'll be no intercession, but there's no intercession except where Allah permits, the ayah from or the passage from Ayat al-Kursi. If you put it all together, you can't say categorically there's no intercession. Put it all together, there's no intercession except where Allah allows or permits.
But isn't this whole section talking about the children of Israel?
And so then the follow-up question is, okay, then does that mean that for them there's no intercession, but for Muslims there may be? There is Allah knows best. This becomes theological speculation.
Do you think that this is referring to, you mentioned narratives, right? So is there a possibility that the entire narrative isn't listed here?
Well,
they had a narrative that, we're the chosen people, we automatically get intercession, and this is rebutting that narrative. That's not listed here, but it's understood.
But it's definitely attacking that if you believe you're guaranteed paradise, no, you're not. Right? You're guaranteed all this wonderful luxury of that generation. I mean, that generation is guaranteed all that luxury. They've come and gone, but there's no guarantee of paradise for you. You have to earn it.
And it goes back to that point of ingratitude, that they were given all this stuff, but they still didn't foster gratitude.
Yeah, that would be the key. That to earn it, you got to have gratitude. Yeah.
So can we go back to the definition of gratitude? So what if they have whatever blessing, and then they feel in their heart grateful for it, and they're actually expressing verbally gratefulness for it. They're having awareness of it, but that doesn't translate into obedient action on something that they feel is kind of difficult for them.
Let's come to that, because this will start playing out a little bit more as we get closer to the latter part of this ruku. Yeah. There's also, using the shifa example and the way we just explained it, there's also a principle in terms of the tafsir, or in terms of just interpretation of the Quran, that every ayah might have blank spaces in it. Like we commonly use the term ellipses. That just like it says, there's no intercession. The first question is, okay, are there words that are left out that are answered somewhere else in the Quran? So the completion would be there's no intercession except as Allah allows, right? And so this is essentially true of the entire Quran. I'll give you a very, very simple example. Let's go to Surah Al-Ma'un.
But that sounds a bit doesn't that sound like you can add an asterisk wherever you want?
It's more that you have to be ready that there is an asterisk that is added, that is explained somewhere else in the Quran first, and by the Prophet, peace be upon him, second. But I'll give you a very simple example. Go to Surah Al-Ma'un 107. And if you just look at ayah 4 on its own, so فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, so warning or woe to those who pray. if I just take this ayah on its own, what is it saying?
Don't pray.
It's saying if you're in trouble, be careful, or if you pray, then be aware you're in trouble. Doesn't it sound like it says that?
Yeah.
And so, but we will all say, well, obviously that's not what it's saying, because look at the whole surah and this and that. And so the point is that with every ayah, the assumption is that there may be blank spaces.
But for that surah, it was like the next ayah. It's not like.
That was easy. It's the next ayah, right? In the case of there's no intercession except where Allah allows, it's still the same surah, but 200 ayahs later, right?
But then can't you just like mix and match any ayahs you want to create something else?
So part of the philosophy of tafsir is that you won't be able to get away with it, to be consistent.
Yeah.
Meaning, you can try, but there is an internal consistency in Quran. Like, if there was contradictions in Quran, then you can easily do it. It seems like it opens up the door to say that the missing blank is something here which allows me to do whatever I want, right? And one is try, but there's the part of the philosophy of tafsir is that you wouldn't actually be able to do it. Try it, so you can see if you can find an example.
No, but couldn't you use that ayah like don't pray while you're drunk or something like that? Can't you use that and like just
Anyway.
add some ayahs together? Warnings, ditch some stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know.
try to come up with something.
I mean, I don't know.
We'll discuss it. Yeah. So the key thing is that when you take 47, 48 together, it's basically saying you're given everything of dunya, but you're not going to be given anything of akhirah. You have to earn it, right? If dunya was given to you, akhirah has to be earned.
Was there something going on at that time? Like, it would seem like this is a very appropriate ayah for like Christians because they are using Isa alayhi salam's intercession. But for Bani Israel, was there something going on at that time that they were doing in particular?
Well, there is debate as far as did the Jews of Medina, did they believe in an afterlife, right? So if you talk to Jews today, some believe in an afterlife, some say, we don't really talk about it, we just talk about this world, right? And if they believed in an afterlife, then there's a passage that comes later on, basically addressing those people who believe that they're guaranteed it, that you're guaranteed paradise, right? And so this is one of the ways that's being attacked. Okay, so now having said that, favor number one. وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمُ الْبَحْرَ. And when we split the sea, and when we split the sea for you, فَأَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ, and we saved you, وَأَغْرَقْنَا, and we drowned عَلَى فِرْعَوْنَ, the people of the Pharaoh. So, and when. We spoke about and when, what is before. Anybody remember anything we said about that? What is? Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just testing. Yeah, that's what it was.
I thought I missed something. I walked away for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like,
What do we say about what is? Anybody remember?
it's
So the literal
consider.
translation is and when. Good. But what is the meaning? It's take a lesson from this event in history. Yeah. So we saved you, Najjaynakum min ali Fir'aun. We saved you from the people of the Pharaoh and what was going on. They were afflicting you with a horrendous torment, slaughtering your sons and letting your women live. Okay. And then that was a trial from your nourisher. Okay. So, Quranic story, biblical story. Who is the Pharaoh?
Ramses the Third.
Emperor.
So from a historical perspective, it's this guy Ramses the Third? Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's probably what I said. You're second or third, okay. There are multiple pharaohs in the Bible. The main pharaoh, there are two main pharaohs in Judaism and Christianity. One is the pharaoh with Moses, and the other is whom? Anybody know?
In the Bible?
Yeah, there's quite a few, but there's two main ones. The other one is King Herod, the pharaoh at the time of the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him.
That's in the Bible? No. There are two pharaohs in the Bible.
Maybe there's more, but those are the two key ones that everyone talks about. Right. Fir'aun was essentially the title of the leader of Egypt, in the way that Kisra was the title of the leader of Iran, in the way Raja was the title of the leader of India. So that was also a generic title. In the Quranic study of the pharaoh, one side is just looking at the history. The other side looks at the pharaoh as the model tyrants. So if you take everything that the Pharaoh does throughout the whole Quran, you have essentially the template on what a tyrant does. So one example, let's look really briefly, go to Surah 28. Right at the beginning of Surah 28, I have 4. No, I have 5.
What surah? What
Surah?
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 What surah? Yeah?
Surah 28. Surah Al-Qasas. So, Tasin Mim, these are ayahs of the clear book. We recite to you the news of Moses and the Pharaoh in truth for people who believe. Indeed, the Pharaoh exalted himself in the land and made its people into parties or groups, oppressing a group among them, slaughtering their sons and letting the women live. Indeed, he was a corrupter. What was the Pharaoh's technique? Keep people divided. Right? Get them to fight each other. In our language, what is that? Divide and conquer. Yeah. And so the actions of the Pharaoh are literally looked at as a template on how a tyrant behaves. Okay. So back to ayah 48.
I wonder when
Yes, sir.
like the United Nations got together and tried to segregate. I mean, it's just weird, you know. It's like how history repeats itself.
Explain.
You know, like dividing up these Muslim world and having these different divisions between the different countries and so on. That's kind of what happened, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And this is like what the Pharaoh did.
Yeah, it's like you look at when the colonial powers were dividing up the whole world. I mean, just look at India and Palestine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hindu state in the middle, Muslim state to the left, Muslim state to the right. How did
Yeah.
they set up Palestine? Jewish state in the middle, Muslim state to the left, Muslim state to the right. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Hindus and Muslims, at least from the Muslim narrative, did not have a history of fighting, but until you have partition now, everybody hates each other. Jews and Muslims had a very strong history of living together and working together and this and that.
Like Hindus and Muslims, it was like it was like a political thing that the British kind of.
Yeah, I'm saying that essentially they set up the world so they can come back. You know, that we make it a big mess. Okay. So, why did the Pharaoh slaughter the sons and keep the women alive? Biblical story, Quranic story. Biblical story. That the Pharaoh's advisors told him of a prophecy that someone in his land is coming up to overthrow him. Okay? And so he had all the little boys literally slaughtered. And then he was concerned in our language about bad PR. So the next round of boys that were born, he let them live. And then the year after that, he slaughtered all the boys. So every other year, yes.
Why? I mean, why would
Yes, he wanted to make sure that the person who was going to overthrow him.
one might get
Pretty
through.
consistent.
That's not-
PR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who's the one who got through? The one who was actually raised in his house, Moses. Right. Yeah. And so yeah, that the Pharaoh is wiping out all these kids. Now, looking at this as the strategy of a tyrant, why keep the women alive? Kill the men and keep the women quiet.
Well, the Bosnian strategy is actually you can actually do more damage to a nation by abusing them, by using them in conflict. That's basically what happened in Bosnia.
And what else are you controlling? You're controlling the future, right? Sorry?
Mothers.
Yeah, you make them the mother of your people's children rather than their people's children.
But this is the biblical version, right? Every other
Yeah.
year.
So the every other year is the biblical version, right? But when this is looked at as the model of a tyrant, what is the strategy? You get the men out of the way, and then you
Is that what the Quran says too?
I mean, this is the common reading of what the Pharaoh is doing here. Yeah. I mean, the strategy as opposed to the historical part. Okay. Let's make sense of the last line here. وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ, and in this, or in that for you, بَلَاءٌ, there was a test, a trial, مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, from your nourisher. They're put in intense slavery as a test from their Rabb. A great test, عَظِيمٌ, بَلَاءٌ عَظِيمٌ. How does that work out, that it's their nourisher who is giving them this test? I mean, it would be one thing if it said it's a test from your master.
Trial.
End of ayah 49.
Oh.
That's
I
gonna be
think
right.
it's speaking
I
to
was,
the fact that, I mean, everything comes from Allah, I think.
Okay. So if it said this is a great test from Allah, cool. If this is a great test from your master, cool. It's a great test from your Rabb, your nourisher.
You need this to become the nation that you're
Yeah.
because your sustenance for that.
You're going through this intensely horrendous experience to make you grow. Good. Now, naturally, if you meet someone who's in slavery, you don't say to them, "Oh, this is happening to you
Because of your Rabb.
Grow."
It's good for
Right?
you. Yeah.
You know, but this is what
They
Allah
tried
Ta'ala is telling them. This is what Allah Ta'ala is telling them, that you went through this essentially to make you grow. It's a test to make you grow.
I brought up the last time we discussed this thing, but Surat Al-Ghabun, I think I 11, right?
Let's take a look.
It was the I 11, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that even you're going to be hit with challenges. Some of these challenges are going to be very severe, and if you can persevere and maintain your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through those times, then He gives you a promise from Allah Himself in His own book. If you persevere through those times, then I will guide your heart. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will literally take your hand and guide your heart in the right direction. So the
Surah 64. Okay, so favor number one is that they're delivered from the Pharaoh. And then that gets then expressed further with the ayah that I jumped into ahead of the time. I'm sorry, favor number one is essentially the trial, but then being saved from that. And then ayah 50, وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمُ الْبَحْرَ, and when we split for you the sea.
The trial itself of them going through this to make them stronger was in fact the favor.
We would say that that's the favor,
That is the favor.
right? But the language that Allah Ta'ala Himself gives it to them is, remember when we saved you from this,
Yes.
right? So you can say it's a double level or a two-part favor, that He was putting you through this struggle to make you grow,
Yeah.
but He also relieved you from that, because it's such a horrendous struggle. Second, we parted the sea for you. وَأَغْرَقْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ, and we drowned the people of the Pharaoh وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ, while you were watching. Why is it significant that they were watching this happen? The splitting of the sea, and then Pharaoh's people arriving and then getting drowned. Why is it significant that they watched it?
It's really satisfying to see your
Yeah.
tormentors go down.
Absolutely, it's totally true, right?
I'm gonna kill
Put
Bill.
it right out there.
So, no, this is totally true. That and we had a discussion a couple of classes ago focused on the fact that Islam is speaking about your actual design, your world, as opposed to the pie in the sky behavior. Pie in the sky behavior is that, yeah, you should forgive. You should forgive everything. Reality is that forgiveness is very, very hard, right? So when we speak about the death penalty, you should forgive, but you're also permitted to have the person who's convicted of killing your family member. You're permitted to have them executed, right? But you should forgive, but you're not obliged to. What else? What else happens? What else is the strength of seeing all this happen?
It's like a miracle.
Yeah, you're seeing it right before your eyes. So you're seeing two things right before your eyes. You're seeing a miracle happen, because in the language of the Quran, it's not like low tide, right? This is modernist reading. The water splits into two mountains of water. Good. And then on top of that, you're seeing your oppressor destroyed. And so this is especially important because think again that we said that their core failure was lack of gratitude. Okay? Now, if I receive money, okay, if I receive a mountain of gold and I'm ungrateful, what do I want?
More.
I want more gold. Okay? If I receive a mountain of gold and I'm grateful, I'll feel like I have two
But
mountains
what
worth.
if you receive a mountain of gold and you want some platinum or something? I'm being serious.
And
Well-
you're being ungrateful.
Well, you have to figure out if it's
There's
gratitude,
just more anything.
or if you can just if you can trade in your gold for platinum. Then would that satisfy the